before we go into our conversation, let me introduce these three wonderful people. So Santiago, if we can start with you. You believe that the civil society has the power to bring about positive change. Following a short stint as a banker in finance earlier on in his career, it wasn't long until he took his first entrepreneurial steps in 2010, before finally really settling into his mission where he could embrace positive impact, helping change makers around the globe connect and collaborate. He set up ChangeNOW in 2016 and has become a key influential figure both in France and internationally. 7 years on, he continues to push the limits of what's possible and is why we are here today. So please put it together for Santiago. We then have MK de Cannart, who really believes you can make a difference by doing what you love. And I think you've seen firsthand how that plays out. You know, it's not necessarily the most obvious leap to have violin playing and ocean conservation, but you've made it work. Growing up in the US before moving to Belgium, she brought together a love of the ocean and music to research the impact of sound pollution in ocean life. Today, she's an experienced skipper, violinist, marine biologist, and activist who is leading a global movement to fight deep-sea mining. And I can tell you now, you will have some actions to take on this before you leave this room. And she's here to tell us about why the ocean needs our help more than ever. So please welcome MK. And last, but certainly not least, we have Christian Leem, who believes in aligning science, finance, and conservation to reverse the decline of our oceans. With years of experience in strategy, operations, finance, spanning regions like Africa, Europe, and Asia, he has had roles at companies like Veolia, Saint-Gobain, Africa Invest, and that gave him unique insights into understanding how fintech and innovation could impact the health of our oceans. He launched the world's first dedicated ocean fund to address the ocean's rapid decline and has ChangeNOW to thank for his first big success, which I'm sure you'll tell us more about. And he's here to help us understand the latest developments in ocean innovation. So welcome, Christian, if you can put your hands together. So we are here in this incredible room with one of the best backdrops you could hope for in Paris or in the world. And I'd like to start with each of your personal relationships with the ocean. You know, why the ocean was important to you. And Christian, if we can start with you, what was it that makes you care about the ocean so much?
To me, it's been freediving since I'm a kid. I've experienced the ocean in the Mediterranean, actually, with my best friend who's from Palma de Mallorca. And as a kid, we would dare each other to go and reach some rock at the bottom or catch, see a shipwreck and things like this. And that's how I developed, I think, a very direct relationship with the ocean, because actually when you're down there and you don't have scuba gear, you're just yourself, and you hear everything. When you're a freediver, there are no bubbles, and the fish, they come and check you out, and you hear them talk to each other, and so it really feels for a minute or two that you're part of it. So that's my connection.
Thank you. What about you, MK?
Well, there's a bit of the same experience with swimming as a young kid, but then also sailing. So I was very lucky to start as a young kid, thanks to my parents. And having this kind of dual connection with the ocean, one on the surface where I could go far. I was on my little Optimist, and you feel like you can sail the world like that. And kind of knowing also as well what happens underneath allowed me to have a more global vision, in which I kept pushing more and more along the years, which brought me to study marine biology, because it seemed like the only obvious way of studying something like that. And then I was also playing violin, and as I grew up, people would kind of say, like, yeah, you should play music with whales. I was like, no, that's way too cheesy. I'm never going to do that. And here I am.
On a stage in Paris doing just that. Sorry, I'm just going to make sure I take this off. If I can ask you the same thing, Santiago.
Of course. Well, my personal ocean is the Mediterranean Sea, actually. I have Spanish origins, and the Mediterranean Sea is is the mother sea for me. So there is a link first with the sea and then with ocean. I would say that for me it's a bit different because I don't think I'm an ocean expert. I'm more an ocean lover, and my expertise is I think we'll able to talk more about this, but my expertise is more on systems change, on how to activate people and ecosystems. But I think that now it's really time to activate the ecosystem and all the resources we can have strategically for the sake of the ocean. And so that's why I think it's very important to have these kind of sessions here at ChangeNOW and all year long.
So yeah, I mean, coming to the ocean, we are facing some really critical moments. We know that the ocean has taken or absorbs 90% of the heat from the planet. It also is our biggest carbon sink in terms of actually absorbing CO2 emissions. And we see every month incredible skyrocketing water temperatures and sea temperatures, as we were just hearing in the last panel. So if we can maybe start with you, Santiago, it does seem like there is a disconnect between the importance and the role that oceans play and yet the action that we see. So can you maybe give us more of a sense as to why the oceans are so important and how you see we can change and make it more of a priority?
Great question. Actually, the ocean is very important because, as you mentioned, one of two breath of air we take comes from the ocean, and this is also the resource for so many people on Earth for their food and many other things. And on top of that, indeed, there is about the fact that it's a huge carbon pump. But for me, I think that the issue is that the immensity of ocean makes it difficult sometimes to rely to it. It's like not it's a bit different when you have a garden and you put some plants you can see grow and die, and this is very visual. The ocean is a bit more difficult, and I needed to have some very concrete images to have that in mind. And one that marked me most is the fact that the size of fishes are diminishing. The tuna fish, a few years ago, it was very big. It was until 3 meters long. Now they say that it's around 1 meter, I think. So it really diminished. And this is due to the fact that we have a lot of overfishing. And when you see that in a picture, you say, wow, that's really stunning. So I think that for the ocean, we need to see things. And so work like what Jahawi is doing and others, I think is key because that shows really the reality of ocean situation.
And I understand ChangeNOW has got some exciting plans around the ocean this year in 2024.
Yes, so I was mentioning, yes, our role definitely and our expertise is more on developing strategies of ecosystems. And for me, there are two main battles we need to do for the next 18 months, at least. First one is there is a huge conference happening in Nice and Monaco next year, which is the UNOC, the UN Ocean Conference. And this is something where the ambitions are the one like COP for the ocean, and it would be great to achieve an agreement like the COP, like the Paris Agreement for the ocean. But the fact is, to do that, we need to have all civil society, all the entrepreneurs, all the NGOs, all the knowledge and ecosystem focusing on that also. Otherwise, we don't have the critical mass to really push the negotiations. Because we here, and I would say for me, we have sometimes a very European-centric focus, but the idea of how much we manage ocean in the world might be very different. So we need to have this critical mass, and this is something we're doing. For example, with great partners we're working with for many years, like Respect Océan, like the 1000 Ocean Startups, SOA, and others. So this is the first one. UNOC, super important to have in the radar, and the second one. It's the deep sea mining. For me, it's one of the key battles we have to fight for in the next 5 years, because it's now there are some countries, and you'll tell much better than I could do, There are some one countries, but nothing is done so far, knowing that on top of that, nothing is written eternally. You always have some wins and some loss, and so we need to be very careful about that.
And we have a moment, haven't we? A very special moment in time, MK, to stop and prevent deep sea mining. So can you tell us first why deep sea mining is just taking off now, and what is attractive about it, and why it's building a momentum now, and then most importantly, what we as ocean allies can do to help the movement?
All right, so deep sea mining. It's about getting those minerals that are at 4,000 meters down, where basically, I mean, very few people have even been there. And we want to go and grab all those metals to create everything we think we need for a green transition, right? So we all think we're going to need billions of cars and all the electronics possible, and so people are getting ready for that, as in, we're going to need that someday, so we might as well just go get it now. When in fact, we're not even close to being there, so we have to stop it before that even happens, because they think it's also a better way to do that than staying on land and on the landmines, which is not true either. I mean, if we open deep sea mining, that is never going to stop what's happening on land, so it's definitely not an excuse. And what is happening right now is the negotiations in Kingston, in Jamaica, so it's called the International Seabed Authority, with a bunch of states that are discussing about the mining code, whether or not to allow these companies and startups to go mine. And so what we want to do is to be sure that they do not do that, but we have on one side the government, we have all the citizens, and we have startups who are just doing lobbying all over the place, and so it's a big mess, and we're trying to do what we can, each person on their side, to change each state's mind to be against deep sea mining. So we do have a few champion states that have already started to join the moratorium. So the moratorium is something to ban deep sea mining and not allow these countries to go. And we have a few champion states. France is one of them. They pronounced their favor to the moratorium 2 years ago. And the idea is really to know about it first, what it is, and also be sure that it is not the solution, because what does it bring? It's biodiversity loss at these 4,000 meters of depth. We're going to destroy completely what has been there for millions of years, and there's no way of getting it back. When we talk about carbon compensation and paying back, I mean, there's no even possible way to pay back what exists down there. And it's going to have an impact on climate, like you said, the carbon sink. We're going to be destroying that whole carbon sink that has been there for years as well. It has an impact on fisheries, because tuna is migrating towards the Pacific Ocean right now. They are getting ready to mine the Pacific Ocean, this Clarion-Clipperton zone it's called. So that's going to have a huge impact on fisheries as well. And then human impact as well, because they've noticed that these polymetallic nodules are radioactive as well. So all of this has to stay in the ocean. It shouldn't be even a viable option. What should be an option is recycling all these electronic devices that we have. It's stopping our consummation. It's finding these other solutions of circular energy, just reducing loads of things that we already know we have to reduce. So everyone is already aware of this. I mean, that's the crazy part. We know we have to do something about it. But now, as a citizen, what you can do, because we often feel just completely useless in our chairs, what you can do is join the fight online. It's a very easy way to join. So what I can ask you to do now is go on this Instagram page called Lookdown Action. So Lookdown Action is a protest. It's a citizen protest that activates each country that is close to join the moratorium and asks the citizen to make some noise, so the government is also aware of what is happening and will change their minds about this deep sea mining, and then be opposed to that, which will then grow the number of states that are against it, and then just stop these companies from just going forward. Because once it's allowed, it's done.
Hard to turn off. It's hard to turn off. So
exactly.
You have our permission to look
Exactly.
away from the stage and get your phones out. When have you ever heard this at a conference? Get Instagram, and it's Lookdown Action.
There's a story that I posted with beautiful picture of the Eiffel Tower and a link to sign a petition to join, to to make some noise in America, because the US is now also starting to get interested in deep sea mining, which we absolutely don't want. So if you can sign that petition, that would mean a lot to all of us. Thank you.
So thank you, MK. So, yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful. So, Christian, we have on one hand, we have behavior change, never sexy, always hard, very necessary. But you talk to us about innovation. So, first of all, maybe tell us a little bit about the state of ocean innovation, because you, when you set up your fund, was the first ever dedicated ocean fund, and that was in 2018. Is that right?
Yeah, 2018 was when Olivier and I, who's here as well, got the idea to create this fund called Blue Ocean. But it took us a few years to get it actually up and running. So 2021 is the year when we launched it. Back in 2018, we had identified, because we were looking at innovation at that time, was in fintech, and started seeing innovations that had solutions to the main threats to the ocean. So we're talking about solutions to overfishing, like smart fishing gear that reduce bycatch, for example. Or we're looking at solutions to plastic pollution. So it could be advanced recycling technologies, or alternatives to the plastic fibers that we have in 60% of our clothes and end up in the ocean when we wash our clothes, or solutions to climate change. So we're seeing the solutions, but we were seeing incredible opportunity for impact, but also to transform very important industries like the seafood industries, the apparel industry. And so it's obvious there must be funds investing in that. And we looked around and looked up, looked down, and didn't see anything. So, Olivier and I, we decided that it was the right time to, jump in the sea, literally, and, quit our jobs and create this fund. So that was the state at that time. So fast forward 2021, we launched the fund with SWEN Capital Partners, aimed at raising 120 million euros, ended up raising 170 million euros. And I think, of course, that was a milestone because it was the first fund in this space and it's been the largest for some time. But very important milestone as well, we've been able to onboard institutional investors. So the likes of, insurance companies, banks, and pension funds on a strategy that is absolutely uncompromising. That's been the philosophy from the beginning, uncompromising on both impact, achieving impact at systemic scale, and achieving competitive, market returns. And so we were able to convince institutional investors that that was possible. So that's been a milestone. And then at the same time, we co-founded 1000 Ocean Startups, so a coalition of incubators, accelerators, and venture capital funds like us investing in ocean startups. We're 6 members at the time. There were the likes of Catapult Ocean. There was Conservation International, Builders Vision, which is an American family office. Just 6 of us, and now we're 43 members from all over the world: Australia, Cape Town, Oslo, San Francisco. We have backed together more than 350 startups. The goal was 1,000, hence the name of is 1,000, hence the name 1,000 Ocean Startups. And together we managed north of 1.5 billion euros. At that time, when we were created, it was maybe a few hundred million. So this is growing exponentially at a pace of innovation. But it's the pace you see with the Facebooks, the Teslas of this world, and that's why we want. We want this pace, but for ocean impact.
And how can the ocean innovation space respond to the very specific challenges that your colleagues, for example, whether it's responding to deep sea mining or responding to a very specific event in the ocean industry diary, how can we align those two together? Or does innovation do its thing and then everybody else has to do their thing? Can you tell us a bit about that?
I think, Santi, you mentioned that the key is to achieve, we're facing systemic problems, so we need to achieve systemic change. So clearly everything we do is connected, and the ocean is what is connecting all of us. And so what you're doing, on activism, trying to influence regulation, laws, and, what we do on the innovation, of course, is completely connected. The one way it's connected is that if you look at achieving systemic change, it's fundamentally about changing behaviors. And to change behaviors, change systems, we see, maybe in an overly simplified way, but it's a practical way to look at it. We see three main levers. The first one is awareness, and it can be science, it can be activism, which is a kind of awareness, which is closer to action. The second one is regulations and standards. So that's also what you're trying to influence, changing laws and things like that. And then the third one is innovation. And so what all of the three levers they aim to achieve is to change behavior, and you need the three of them to really change behavior, profoundly, which is what we need. And so, if you look at, for example, solutions to deep sea mining, one of them is to offer an alternative that is sustainable, competitive on price and performance. And so, if you can get a solution startup that will help recycle those mineral materials that are in our electronic devices at the end of their life, can do it in a way that is economical, then there was not going to be a need for deep sea mining. So that's the type of solution we're looking for through our fund. And
it really does transcend the fact that it could be nothing to do with the ocean, but by recycling those minerals, you are actually helping the ocean. So it shows how integrated these are. So we don't have much time, but I would like to ask each of you, if everything goes right in the next 12 months, what are we celebrating here at ChangeNOW 2025? So things go our way. What are you celebrating, Santiago? What have we achieved?
Actually, I will have a response between your question and the end of what Christian said. Is that I believe that indeed there is this question of alternatives, and we have a lot of alternatives here that are viable, etc. But I think that there is also time, and I would like to celebrate that also next year, is that we still live in a world where sometimes we agree that the private interests are more important than the common interest, And for example, deep sea mining for me is it's that the fact that just a few people would get a lot of private interest from deep sea mining, but a lot of good common goods that will just disappear. So I hope that one day we'll just manage to celebrate the reverse, and maybe next year, if it's the best we can.
Yeah, exactly. No, thank you. And MK, what about you?
Very nicely said. That's exactly what it is. What we hope for is a global moratorium against deep sea mining. So every country deciding to not go for it and not allow these companies to go start these crazy ideas that they have. So one country at a time, we'll get there. We are doing very good for the moment, and we want to keep on going.
And it's raising that awareness, isn't it? It's absolutely raising that awareness.
Always going.
What about you, Christian?
So, if you allow me two elements. The first one, wearing my hat as a co-founder of the SWEN Blue Ocean Fund. We already, well ahead writing the first chapter. So deploying already 2/3 of our first fund in 14 amazing, ocean startups. And I would like to encourage you actually to maybe look them up if you want to have more concrete ideas of what ocean innovations can achieve. You can look up SWENBlueOcean.com, and you will see the companies in our portfolio, how they address climate change, overfishing, and pollution. And so we should be fully committed this year, and so we're already preparing for the next chapter, and so we're bonding partners for that. Hopefully we'll be able to announce already at the beginning of the next chapter sometime next year, and maybe with some of you here. Next, I wanted also to mention the work that 1000 Ocean Startups is doing. The goal is to back at least 1,000 transformative ocean startups by the end of the UN Ocean Decade of Science. Hopefully, next year at a time, we'll be able to share where we're standing, but there's good progress, and I think, hopefully we'll be able to showcase really very concrete impacts already at a large scale. So, yeah.
Well, you heard it here, so we've got this on video, so we'll see. So this really does bring to an end this particular session on oceans. But are you feeling motivated? Are you feeling like allies? Are we going to change now? Yes, 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 yes. Okay, well, really, you know, today's session has been about bringing together the fact that you have an Ocean World First, a certification to showcase just what is happening in ocean innovation. We have storytellers showing us and telling us and inspiring future ocean conservation leaders just the work that we need to do. And here from today, from this last session, you know that you need to keep in touch or look at the UNOC and what is happening there. You know that you need to go to Instagram. Don't look the Lookdown action to make sure that you help the world move forward to a global moratorium. And with Christian, please do go and share, not just with you because you're in the room, but go and share with your friends, your network, your circle of influence, the types of ocean innovation that is already existing today. So thank you, everybody, for choosing this session. We have loved having you, and thank you to all of our speakers for coming today. Thank you.